Hi, everyone. This is Kerry Hecht. I'm the CEO and founder of 10K Humans. And today we are joined by our friend, Lindsey. So Lindsey, for listeners that don't know you, could you please introduce yourself, what you do at Smith Hanley, and tell us about market research?
Yeah, for sure. So I am Smith Hanley's small, but we've been around forever, like 45 years. But Smith Hanley right now is maybe about like 10 recruiters, and they all have different special niches. And I'm the principal for the niche that's dedicated to like research and analytics.
Okay, so Smith does not just do research. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, there's other ones that are like some cross-functional partners, right? We have people that are focused in pharma analytics and sales or actuarial science. So like we'll cross when we need to like help clients and do things like that. But yeah, really it's just, there's just some small niche areas. So ours is just research and analytics, which is a huge ecosystem, right? It's small industry, but it's massive. So like we have research company clients, we work with brands, agencies, consulting firms, like primary, secondary research, data science, you name it. It's kind of all under that umbrella of what we do.
And how did you find your way into market research recruiting?
You know, when I was little, I was like, when I grow up, I want to be a headhunter.
I think
no.
There, right?
Yeah, for sure. I got a bachelor's degree in psych, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with this?
Yeah.
You know, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, I can be like, I wanted to do therapy, but it's like, okay, that's more school. Maybe I'm not the best at school, right? Yeah. Maybe school's not my thing. I'm going to continue. And then I saw talent acquisition. I'm like, this is really neat. I enjoy this. So I moved like internally to do internal talent acquisition at this company, and I absolutely adored it. But then for whatever reason, I had to leave and find something new. This was years ago. And I was applying for jobs. I didn't apply to anything that was external like this ever. And then I had one interview with them, and it was all about the market research industry and how I can specialize in that. And like, I just fell in love with it. So I've been here for 11 years. That was 11 years ago. So yeah, that's why I'm still here, because we get to talk to interesting people all day, you know, people with advanced degrees in social science and all of that fun stuff. I just didn't want to be like working in a capacity that was more like IT focused or something that was very systematic, checked boxes. It's just like not my personality. So I fit in. It was great. Still here, still kicking.
It's amazing because so many people in market research also have psychology backgrounds, right? So I think that it translates really well because you're speaking the same language.
It is. We have the same interest level. So my interest level is in people, right? Yeah. Humans, behavior, communication, you know, those types of things, right? That's what I'm analyzing all day. So it's definitely, it's cohesive for sure. And I think that's why it's like, I've been here for so long. Our group kind of fits in. We're at the conferences, you know, we can have conversations. We're very interested in what's going on all the time, just as like researchers are interested. So
yeah. That's great. And I think that's a really good thing. You know, obviously for our industry, but also for you in, you know, your role, right? I mean, it's about making good matches, right? And so you need to understand the person and the priorities that they have as a job seeker, as well as the cultural fit and all of the nuances that the company that they're going to is looking for. Reflected sometimes.
It's so funny. It's like our old managing partner used to joke all the time that our niche industry, the market research industry, was the only one that there was so many soft skill elements and so many cultural elements to every single hire all the time. Like someone could not hire somebody because they didn't get along with them well, or like they didn't fit in. But in like other more like statistical elements and things like that, like none of that matters. Yeah. Right? It's like, can you do the job or not? Do they do these three things? And that's it. And ours is just more touchy-feely and like human and, you know, it was different.
Well, it's painful. I mean, I think we've all had experiences, whether we've hired someone or been hired to places that were not a good fit, right? Yeah. And it's a really, really painful experience for everybody involved, and sometimes a really expensive mistake too. You know,
for sure.
So why don't you tell us what kind of searches you're running most often right now, and what types of searches have slowed?
It's always a mixed bag. So this is kind of a loaded question, right? Because every position will be vastly different from the next, because we'll get pulled on to the roles that maybe are a little bit harder to fill, right? Most of the time. Yeah. But I think So I can analyze a theme to what they look like. Majority of them are for research companies or agencies. And majority of them are at this like mid stage. So like 3 years to 8 years, maybe 10 years. And whether it's whatever type of research company it is, it could be an AI startup that has a research organization, or like an established traditional custom primary research firm. Like still, like they're all looking for this like 3 to 8 years of experience, somebody that's been leading primary research in this eclectic format, whether that's quant or qual.
Sure.
Right. And maybe something that's slowed is probably the brand side stuff, right? That used to be like our meat and potatoes, the tough to fill positions we get brought on for. And we know, like everything that's been going on in our industry, like all the restructurings, economic issues, tariffs, like, yes. there's not a lot of spend or budget. So we just haven't had a lot of, and people are getting let go at senior levels. So yes. We just haven't had as many of those opportunities as we typically do too, which has been interesting and new for us.
Yeah, I'm gonna build on that a little bit, and I know that we're going to talk later in this about what candidates can do to raise their profiles, but I do think it's worth diving in now, since we're on the topic of people who do find themselves in more senior roles, or were in senior roles and got let go, or looking for more senior roles. What advice do you have for them right now, as far as where to look? I mean, so I talked to someone who recently got let go, who is my age, and he is looking for, he's got 15, 20 years of experience, and he is even happy to take a little bit of a step back, right? Mm-hmm. But, but is also feeling really discouraged because of his age, right? And because of positions he's seeing out there. So do you have any advice that you would give to people that find themselves in that position?
Well, ageism is real.
Yep.
So, right, like we start there, but I think this layered. So I'll start with hope. So this idea that I think that what AI will be changing in the industry and changing in hiring will be for the benefit of everybody, because it's going to take away the requirement for a certain amount of years of experience, or a certain amount of dedicated years working in particular pieces, because what's going to be most important, right? So that like AI will take over a certain level of the process, right? Like the field process, maybe, we don't know yet, right? But the idea that we only need people that are really great working with clients on the front end to design, that we really need great visualization storytellers. And that can be somebody that has like 6 years of experience, or somebody that has 25 years of experience, and that relevance will, it's going to evolve, and it will get better. That the age will become less of an issue, right? That's our hope.
Yeah.
And in terms of advice, what I'm always telling people is that you have to lean on your network. I mean, that's just really all it is at the end of the day. And also, just be regimented about it. Like, don't murder yourself about like networking like 6 hours a day, but like just do your thing. Reach out to 2 people a day, apply to 2 jobs a day, keep your head down, follow up with those individuals, and everything will fall into place for you. I mean, if you've been working for that long, you have a lot of really great connections that want to help you out. And plus, the market research industry is just so friendly in itself that you will end up finding somebody that's probably going to be able to help you get something. But yes, you do need to take a chance and most likely take a step back. So what you can do is position yourself, develop your brand. This is a really long answer, and you can totally cut me off. I'm like going off.
No, I'm loving it.
There's layers to it, right? So the idea of like just developing your personal brand and owning that apart from your age, right? So not like I've been working so long and I can do anything and everything, because we know you can, right? But like, I think what makes a big difference and what makes a person stand out regardless of age is like developing and owning their own personal brand, what it is they want, what it is they can do, and just owning that throughout the process, right? And then just being vocal about that, like on LinkedIn or on these types of scenarios, or networking with old colleagues and things like that too. And take the years off your resume. There's no reason why anyone needs to have years. Like, I've been working for 15 years. Get it off.
Yeah, that was like actually the advice that I gave him too. Like, I said,
Yeah.
I told him to reorganize the resume so that the functional skills and accomplishments were at the top, right? So it's like, these are the business impact that you've made, and these are the things that you are really most interested in doing, and then condense the sections where it's like your experience.
The objective.
2000s. You know what I mean? You're like,
there's a great piece of advice. Like anything I say, I usually tell people, I just told someone this morning, after 10 years, I feel like it's no longer relevant for you to have how many years of experience you have in the industry. Like, just get it off. No job has like, we require 20 years of experience to be qualified, right? It's like, usually at the max, it's 15. It's usually 10.
Yeah.
So like anything above that,
you're
disqualifying yourself. Get it out,
Yeah, when NERC starts sounding ridiculous, like, it's funny, Jay and I will sometimes put like our combined years of experience in market research, which, is like 60, between two people.
Damn.
35 years of experience. And you're like, you're not doing yourself any favors. People are like, are you okay? Or, like, yeah,
Did you not retire? Are you okay? Yeah.
Did you not speak well? Like, why are you here? But yeah, it's true. And I think that if you can have a sense of humor about it too, because there is a lot of value in having, the institutional knowledge of having decades worth of experience. But
yeah,
I do think it also scares people, not from like a literal, oh my gosh, this person is so old way.
Yeah.
Just that they're going to be rigid in the way that they think about doing things. And, if you're a company that is experimental or wants to try new things or is leaning into new tech or whatever, you don't want to hire people that are going to end up not getting it, or not being able to embrace things, or not being experimental, or not being, you know what I mean? So it's like the skill set is good, but you also need to somehow let people know that you're still flexible and learning and eager to see what's next, and like help bring the business that you're applying to into the next phase of their existence,
Exactly. And like identifying lack of efficiencies, changing productivity, doing things, and having all of that on your resume, right? Being able to identify that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Being adaptable, having a high level of agility, forward thinking. I'm not saying you need to go take like 5,000 AI courses, right? But the idea that like things are evolving and you're on board, like a big red flag the second I'll talk to somebody that maybe has a lot of years under their belt. It's like, how do you feel about the AI revolution, right? And if it's not like an instantaneous, oh, well, this is where things are going, obviously, and this is what I'm doing to try and adapt to that or integrate this. It's like, oh, well, we need humans. I'm like, okay. Red flag a little bit, and so like, okay, well, then we'll talk through like maybe how to adjust the thinking or, some materials to like get them up to speed as to like what's happening in the background so that they can be on board a little bit more. Like, yeah.
Yeah. A piece of advice that I keep hearing kind of over and over in this is when you're talking about, especially with AI, when you're talking about your experience, not a lot of people do have tons of experience with how they're using it at work, right? And there's a whole reasons for that. So, it could be that, the company or companies that you came from hadn't gotten there yet. It could be that there are, that maybe they had limitations on the kind of text you could use or kind of tech you could use. Maybe they had, there's a bunch of different reasons why you may not have the professional experience. So then don't hesitate to give examples of how you're using it in your personal life, right? So, or things, the way that you're incorporating AI into just how you manage yourself, and and I thought that was really good advice, because if people are not, at least it then shows that you are out there, you are learning, you're figuring it out, and I do think that that's relevant, given that the tech is so new and it's touched so many different areas of everything. So, from yourself to whether it is workflow automation or whether it is to, qual at scale or whether it is to analysis and report writing, it doesn't all have to be a direct work experience in order for it to show your interest in the topic.
No, and I think I agree with that, right? Because in reality, not every research opening currently is requiring you to have that such a high aptitude for AI automation, right? And building AI automation. It's just not. Because we're in a learning hub here. I know it's not a new thing, but it's new to a lot of people. A high percentage of our industry is just learning and learning how to adapt to it, right? So the idea that you don't have all of those tools, that's fine. And I agree with having the more personal experience. That would be a question, right? To just really understand. That might be a question I would ask a candidate to see if they worked at a more traditional research firm and I knew it was a more traditional research firm, then I'd be like, okay, so how are you utilizing it in your day-to-day? It'd be like, oh, I use this type of calendar, note taker. I use this AI to record this and blah, 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 blah. And then you're like, okay, so they're adaptable, they're interested, they're on board, all of those types of things.
Yeah, and it's also a way to learn, right? Mm-hmm. So if you find yourself with a, between jobs or that you're in a gap, figure out what tools can help you around, just managing your day-to-day life or keeping track of the conversations that you're having, the networking that you're doing, that kind of thing. So that way you're learning while you are doing. And I think that, to your point, organizations are still trying to figure out what makes the most sense for them when it comes to this. And it's going to play out differently for different organizations, right? It is going to, some people are going to use it for one thing, another company is going to use it for another thing. And that's not necessarily going to be, apples to apples, even if you're talking about research agency to research agency. They all have focuses, and some people are building their own tech and some people are buying it and some people are, so I think that it's if you can figure out what tools are out there and how to use them in your day-to-day, you're going to be a lot further along when you're having these conversations and a lot more open to what the possibilities are.
Yeah, exactly. Being able to have a seat at the table to have those conversations, I think is very important. So what we ask people, or when we look at resumes and things that where AI enablement is certainly something that they need to have, it's as if we see the softwares and things, right? The panels that they're using, the proprietary tools that they have, right? But then when I'm looking at the chunk of their resume where they're talking about what it is that they do and their major accomplishments, if AI is a requirement for the job, I'm like, okay, well, have they worked cross-functionally with data engineering? Have they communicated with the product team? How in the loop are they on a regular basis, right? Or is it just that they list all of these primary research projects that they've used and then they have a bunch of AI tools, right? So how in the weeds are they with that automation and the accomplishments?
Yeah, I think so. So we're going to out of order. That's a great segue into the question about when you are reviewing resumes, what's real AI automation capability from resume buzzwords? And you touched on it a little bit, to not have these things as disparate sections in your resume, but looping them in together. But can you build on that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So the idea of having but in a general level outside of AI, it's when you have a resume and you have your role, you never want to just read a job description. It needs to read the major accomplishments that you've had at your organization, so that someone can actually judge whether or not they can tell what you've done, your level of visibility, all those things based on the projects that you had, right? So within that body, you have to include the AI automation. I identified this inefficiency in the workflow, and this is what I automated in order to, bring us to this particular level, right? Maybe it's not a high revenue level, or I raised revenue by this certain amount, whatever. But the idea is that oh, okay, so in the business, you're helping the organization by identifying inefficiencies and developing AI automation, right? So that's one example. And then another would be about you having cross-functional partners or working cross-functionally with the individuals that are actually doing the building, the data engineers, the product team, those types of things too. So the meat and potatoes.
Now, do you feel like that is the same message that's important, whether you are at the beginning of your career. So maybe like, maybe you don't have many examples of business impact, or right, that you weren't in a position where you could identify, or it wasn't part of your role to identify operational efficiencies, versus someone who is perhaps a team lead, a department head, or director level, who that would be a
Yeah, you don't have the option to have those types of accomplishments in your resume. Understandable. So maybe what would I do? I would have like a click in on my resume to a portfolio of things that I've been doing personally.
I love that.
Yeah, like personal AI portfolio or something like that, where you can like kind of look and see, what you've been doing outside. Or I would have maybe like objectives or ideas, something to just show that like you are thinking about these things on the day to day, and maybe you don't have the pull to actually make the change, right? But you want to be doing that, and maybe that's your objective on your resume. Like, I want to be a part of organization where I can be involved in automation, etc.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, I love it. So if you think about looking back on the past 5 years, and we touched on this a little bit before we hit record, that of course, everyone is talking all about AI right now. But you say you're still seeing a lot of job listings come through, or you're getting jobs that you're searching for, candidates that don't have AI as a part of it. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? How's that changed over the past 5 years?
Yeah, what's funny is that 5 years ago was COVID, so like
right.
So much has changed, right? And I was thinking about that. It's like, wow, that's 5 years ago. Was a way different time. But I think right before COVID was this period where we're all like, data's taking over and qualitative research is dead. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Well, it was big data, right? So it was like that was the topic of conversation for such a long time. And then it was like, well, we don't know what to do with it. Like, we've got all of this data, but it's too much data. We don't we don't know what to do with it. And now I think the processing power is there. But are we connecting back to that,
Exactly. Yeah. But I think so. It's a similar idea. But everything was disjointed. There was companies that are still doing the same thing, and they're successful in doing that thing, right? So let's see, like the specific roles we have open right now. A few of these, what's interesting is that even for this startup, it's an AI startup. I obviously can't say the name of the client, right? But it's an AI startup. They have got a ton of funding. They're doing really well. They've developed this like tech that can like do IDI, something like that, right? To be able to like make things more efficient for their clients.
Sure.
But they're going to keep it in-house and have like an internal primary research function in-house.
Yeah.
Right. So the idea is that they still need individuals that are just really good at conducting and designing primary research enough where they can like make sure that the tech is doing its job effectively and tell a really strong story on the back end, right? So like that basic level skill set of somebody that's really been great primary researcher is not going anywhere. And they didn't need to have a ton of AI automation to be successful there. Like they have tech people that are in it, that are changing things, updating things regularly and on top of it, right? Just the aptitude, like have they used a panel and like a community and like they can figure out how to talk to the bot effectively and all those types of things, and train the AI. But then on the flip, it's like, so that like the fundamental skill set is still there, even though like the founders aren't from market research, right? They're from a tech company. So like, it's just very interesting. And then the other side is like, there's traditional custom primary market research company that is like, I need somebody at a senior level that could design quant projects. We're like, okay, cool. Like they're still there, man. And it's like, I'm like, oh, what are you guys doing for AI? They're like, what the nature of what they do is so highly custom that they're like, whatever our client needs us to do. I don't, like we're not just changing the game here. We have to wait for our client to be like, oh, do you automate this? I would like this, I would like that. And then they can adapt and change for that particular client. So long-winded way to say things are changing slowly. Like, don't freak out, and the positions are still there. I feel like they're becoming more relevant. We're getting more in, and everybody has a high level of empathy as to like, no, we don't need you to be a data engineer or a programmer. Like, we get it. We're all learning here. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you're saying. I think that, you're seeing there's so many tools that are out there that are accessible for either no money or cheap, or companies are buying subscriptions for their teams that are so easy to use, if you know how to ask the right questions of the tool and to apply it to the right, and again, that requires being thoughtful about it. And then there are, of course, like you said, these tech companies that often don't have market research backgrounds that are finding them now in the market research space, which is not new for us as an industry, right? I mean, we've seen that, kind of time and time again. Every time that there has been sort of a big technical revolution, you see companies or people who start companies that don't have any experience in the market research space that are finding themselves in it. And sometimes on purpose, and sometimes it's by accident. And I think they're actually people that it's worth having conversations with, because they often question why we do things the way that we do them. So like, if they don't come from our space and they see something that sort of strikes them as strange or odd, it's interesting to see how they solve that problem or how they would go about it in a different way, right? And I think that that's a really important to be infusing into our industry as a whole. And and then you've got companies who are market research agencies, whether they're big agencies or boutique agencies, who are building their own tools. And sometimes they're building from scratch, and sometimes they're building them from they're white labeling something else, or they're using something that already exists as a base for it. And that does require trained mid-level and senior staff that are familiar with market research, that have the market expertise to make sure that they're being built the right way, trained the right way, asking the right questions, and so on and so forth. So
exactly. There's another one too. It's like it's fun talking to these individuals too and trying to figure out, because it's really just turning everything upside down in terms of like what the particular profile always was into what it can be, which is, like I mentioned it earlier a little bit about years of experience no longer being relevant, right? But I think that the idea of like being able to communicate with the tech is certainly going to be a skill set that everyone will need. Whether that you're working in like a observational data lake on a regular basis to pull information, or it's a primary research and you're using a tech to do an IDI, whatever it is, you're going to need that particular skill set to be able to train AI tech the best way possible. And that's definitely going to be a skill set that you should either hone or learn, or organizations should be like injecting into their companies in training on that.
Exactly. So in your opinion, where is AI genuinely improving research quality or speed, and where is it just hype? And then I would ask the follow-up question to this is, what are you learning about this from your clients?
Yeah, I'm not a researcher.
Yeah.
So like my opinion on this, I don't know, take it with a grain of salt. But I think, I mean, the efficiencies are very clearly with, like I mentioned, the data lakes and things. Like the idea that you can pull so much information. We have a few clients that are like really just putting together these dashboards. They're just like absolutely breathtaking, where the idea is that their client can pull up any information, any project that they've ever done in the history of time, and compare it to all of this existing observational data that changes every 5 seconds. And then they can just like have really great insights from that, right? And then they can partner that with all of the primary research that they need to do. And it's just so seamless and easy and fun to be able to do those types of things. So I feel like having that like secondary backup research, and then also it's saving internal people money to be able to like pull up past projects, integrate with other teams potentially, right, that have been doing similar work, like all that kind of stuff. I think that's
silos.
Number one, right? Obviously there's a lot of questions about like the field and the data collection, right? Because there's a lot of speculation around like data quality and like all that type of thing too. But like having like in-depth interviews or automated focus groups and those types of things too, it's efficient. But like, like there's a lot of mixed feelings I know from clients about like, if they want tech to be doing those types of things, if they want to keep that human, right? There's a lot of skepticism around that too. So, but it's efficient, right?
Yeah. I think that there will be it will become another tool in the toolbox. And from the conversation that I've been having around this topic already, I think that it's really starting to point that way. So, we spoke to Jason Kramer with Vital Findings, and, he was talking about, they're primarily a quant company, but they are starting to do qual at scale. And, his thinking was, surveys can be asked in a more qualitative fashion. And then, you can do that in a really scalable way, really fast. And then that doesn't mean that that's the only research that's going to be done, but it can code the answers. It can do all of the things and basically quantify that data. And then if you're looking for, validation, either validation, you're using it as validation, or you're wanting to get validation afterwards, you can do, in-depth interviews with, qualitative style, or different surveys with high people or whatever, so I think that it just becomes another tool in the toolbox.
Yeah, like just to create more efficiency and more information.
But, right. Yeah. And it can be supplemented, with or punctuated, I should say, on either side with, interviews with a human researcher and that kind of thing. So I don't think it necessarily replaces anything. And I think that the possibilities are really endless. Qual at scale becomes quant, right? And then you've got real people on the other side of it, so you don't have the same level of questions about data quality and things like that. Your point about being able to mine it sort of endlessly and in different ways, and so are you finding that your clients are thinking about it in similar ways to each other, or are you finding that they're like, it depends really on who it is that you're talking to? Talk to me a little bit about that.
It does. It's fun. It's fun learning, right? Because I'm like, then, at the same time, it's like, my business, I'm like, what do I do? You know what I mean? So like, it's fun to listen to what other, like companies are doing, CEOs, things like that, our clients for research companies. No, they're all different. They're all different. And I think, I'm not sure if it's trend on like what makes it different. I guess maybe like custom research suppliers or agencies that are like really strategic and boutique are treading lightly. They're not developing their own tech. They're like seeing what their clients need, integrating tools, seeing what's best, trying things out. And then we have the more like tech oriented research companies that are kind of developing their own specific technology that they feel like could be more cohesive for their clients. We have this one client that's just so awesome that they're moving completely away from being a full service agency to just working with their particular tech and moving away from it all the way. And that's been an interesting ride, right? And like, yeah. And like, so, I mean, everybody is different. It depends on how passionate they are and if they can really see the future of this. But it's been fun. It's been fun for us too. Like, everyone's so different in their development phase and what they'd like to be doing and how I'm helping them. And it's fun.
Yeah, I really enjoy hearing how companies are navigating things as well. So I can imagine that it is a lot of fun to just like, to constantly be learning and, to some degree, I would imagine that your role is also, assisting them in crafting the right messaging to attract the right candidates, right? So, if these are jobs that haven't existed before or components of them haven't existed before, making sure that they're looking for participants but looking for candidates in the right way so that they'll get who they want and who they need, not just, someone that.
It's hard. If you're a founder and you have like your baby and you're trying to hire somebody to like scale it, those types of things, then you're never going to feel like it's the right person. Even if you get along with them really well and they're promising you the moon, you're like, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just, it could be difficult for sure. But yeah, it's fun. Yeah. We're like, we have to craft assist on like job description creation and craft particular questions that they should be asking, or making sure that they're creating, like that their communication is more important than like my communication with them, because they're so small and it's so unique. And it's like every search is just so vastly different than the next. It's a good time.
So tell me, like, for mid-level researchers, what is the baseline skills that consistently get job offers?
That's broad, Kerry.
I mean, and go.
List them all. No, I think
maybe if we put it into buckets. So if you think about things that would be like tech companies versus research agencies versus brand side researchers.
Okay. I mean, I think from a research capacity, so you're saying like a tech company, like a Google, or a tech company?
Oh, no, more like a tech research company. So like the ones that have developed their own perhaps proprietary tools that they're using that are now hiring.
Okay. So a mid-level researcher, maybe I'll stick broad. Maybe that'll be helpful.
Okay.
I'll go, and then you can tell me if it was good enough. Okay.
Okay. Well.
Okay. So the idea is like the best candidates, and we feel like this has been a trend recently as well in the last year or so, but the idea that they have a severely eclectic skill set, like whether they're not like they can be really great at quant or really great at qual or whatever, but the idea is that they understand both, they can design both and speak to it and understand how important both of them are together. It's on a rare occasion where we feel like, and it's always a very traditional research company that needs somebody that's like just doing qual or just doing quant and those types of things too. So that's a big piece. And I feel like that's always a differentiator for somebody that can do that. And then the other piece is the storytelling piece. So the idea that they can be the world's like best client development person, but then if they get in a presentation and they're not really great at developing the story and then like owning it, being able to ask questions or answer questions and those types of things, a really great data storyteller sets them.
Yeah.
Like the bar's up like way here. Not necessarily the creative visualization person, although that person's great too. I mean, like being able to like really pull stuff out and get creative about it.
I can totally see that. I mean, I definitely have seen my fair share of people who were unbelievably good with data, especially quant data. But then when it came time to actually present it, that they didn't have the quite the right level of I want to say charisma, but that's not exactly the right word, right? But they weren't getting you excited about what it is that they were presenting. And I think that it's funny because in every one of these conversations that we've talked about reporting, right? And reporting, being 120-page PowerPoint presentation or something like that.
Yeah.
And ain't nobody got time for that anymore. So it's like, how can you take all of that data and turn it into something that is compelling and that the stakeholders are going to get involved with and is actually actionable, whilst leaving them with,
I know.
And
it's such a common thing that everybody says all the time, like actionable insights, but it's really meaningful and not everybody can do it.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, it really is. So like examples and things of like how you've actually created actionable insights, right, is important. And then the last would probably be curiosity, the idea that you are not just like talking at people, but you are genuinely curious, like, oh, how do you feel about this? And like kind of always poking around and wanting to give the best conclusion and come up with the best visualization and those types of things too for a mid-level.
Yeah. So this leads me to, when we're talking about what candidates can do to demonstrate their work, given that most of us are under NDAs for the work that we do. So what kind of like portfolio artifacts and case studies would your clients be looking for? Would you be looking for from a candidate to demonstrate their abilities?
If you would have asked me this question 6 months ago, I would have had a different answer. Like,
what would that answer have been?
6 months ago, I would have said, I think that you should, every time you work on a project, you're going to keep it for yourself. And then you can redact all the information. You can keep it in a portfolio, and you can present that portfolio at any point in time because that's the work that you did.
Right.
Things are changing. NDAs are scary. And we just had a situation where somebody actually got an offer rescinded because they like pulled archived information from their company. So yeah, they got to a point where, so my advice is to just like skip it. Just be honest and say, I'm terrified of my company's NDA. I really feel uncomfortable like sharing any information that they have with you. And I'd really appreciate if there was any exercise that I could do to like kind of show you a little bit more about my capabilities, right?
Yeah, this is interesting because so firstly, to your point, and everyone knows everyone is under NDA, right?
Yeah.
And even sometimes we get asked, as any agency does, to show your work, right? And you're like, we can't do that. Unless you're doing some kind of case study or that kind of thing, which actually may be, one of those things that people should start doing or think about doing. And again, another way to demonstrate your interest in AI, if that's something that is important to you, is work with charities, right? Or work with organizations
that's a good idea.
Interested in, like volunteer your time, help them solve, especially if you're out of work, volunteer your time, help them.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah. And I mean, it's something that I do on a personal level, but we've also done professionally when we were trying to build case studies. Like, we didn't have any. So we put a call out to the universe that's like, hey, if you want us to do some work for you for free, our only
great
is that we can use it for marketing material. So, but I think that people on an individual basis can do that. You could do it with your kids' school. You could do it with any number of things, right? That just to demonstrate your work and then also to develop your skills. But additionally, I agree with it that it's like, if you did have someone who was like very willing to, show work that they had done that they knew was under NDA, but you're just like, well, why are you asking for it? So it's one of those things that you wish.
There's so many layers to it. It's like, it needs to be like, you need to be convinced this is the person that we want to hire.
Yeah.
Right. In order to feel ethically okay about it. Like, this is the person I'm going to hire, so that they get to that stage of the process and you're like, okay, if you feel comfortable, we'd love to see some redacted work from you so that we can really see it. But like, some companies ask for it way too soon, like second round interview, show me a work sample you've done. Like, it's no big deal. And it is a big deal. Like, you're sharing proprietary information back and forth, and that's inappropriate. But yeah, I mean, yeah, this guy was off. He got an offer. He accepted. He was supposed to start, and then the company received legal paperwork from. Did you go? Kerry? Kerry?
My God, my computer just totally died. Like, yeah, like just in the middle, like in the middle of your sentence, I was like, my computer just turned off. And I
I'm
was like,
sorry.
no,
Stressful.
no, no. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So do you mind if we finish on the phone?
I don't mind. Do you
Okay.
mind?
I don't
I
mind.
feel like
We
we're
can.
close, right?
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
close.
But I really loved where you were going with this. Hold on. So let me see. Where is my,
Yeah, some info
what do
on
we add
this poor,
others?
yeah, this poor guy. It was so sad.
Okay, hold on one sec. Let me click record again. Or is it still recording? Can you tell?
Oh, that would be funny if they were just recording me the whole time. And then this
Wait,
call is being recorded. I was just alone, like, Carrie.
let me. Hello. Okay, think I think that it's still recording.
I think it is.
It should say on your screen.
It says this call is being recorded. There's a little red
Okay, great.
dot up here on the top.
Okay, great. Okay. So, sorry, Jay, where we left off, you were telling me about this guy who had his offer rescinded, and I think you were right at the point where he was about to deliver, he delivered the work.
Yeah, no, so he received the offer from our client and then he was supposed to start. He accepted. It was all very exciting. He put in his notice at his current company. But then my client company received legal documentation of his signed affidavit that he had like pulled archived information from them
Oh,
and that they recommend that he like not be employed. So then they had to like pull his
oh,
offer and say that he could no longer work there. So, and then like doing some digging, it realized like he had pulled like archived information to like assist in presenting some past work samples, and
yeah,
so
yeah.
just don't do
It's
it.
unfortunate. We
Yeah.
actually dealt with something very similar where we had an employee go and pull a bunch of things from the drive, which was again, it was really, really unfortunate, and it was,
Yeah.
yeah, and again, you're legally obligated not to do that.
Right.
Um,
Skip it. Skip it.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
say no.
skip it and get creative about how you are producing these things, because there's a bunch of other ways. I mean, with as big as the internet is and as big as you could find a enough information out there publicly available to write a report in any way that you wanted to on anything. I mean, you
Right.
could even do a certain, like, let's just say you were wanting to write a synopsis of interviews about a specific topic. Just go look at news, what's been talked about on the news and a bunch of different interviews that are relevant to it. And, like synthesize those and write your analysis. There's a million different
Yeah,
ways that you can accomplish something like that without having to put yourself in, I think, jeopardy to violating your NDA.
of course. But we want to make sure too that because most of the time when companies are requesting that from you, it needs to be relevant to what it is that they do
Sure.
on a regular basis too. So I would always suggest asking for some type of case, like if they're not able to produce. And some companies get turned off by that, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, what was interesting, and this popped into my head when you first mentioned this, there was this friend that I have who was interviewing for it was like a data analyst role in finance, and he was going through lots and lots of rounds of interviewing, and he had companies asking him to work on things to show his ability, right? So but he ended up doing weeks and weeks of work for this one company, and then didn't end up getting a job, which I thought was also, like, I had never heard of such a thing, or at least so brazenly, um,
It
of
happens.
what, yeah, trying to extract work from. So I think it is a fine line, but I'm guessing your role as the recruiting partner for both of those companies can, help figure out what is the right level of appropriate.
For sure. And then so one client we have actually for a data scientist position, she's paying them an hourly rate to complete a project that's real in an
Yeah.
effort to like an interview
Yeah, that's
process,
great.
right? Yeah, that was
Yeah.
great. That was great. And then it shows the candidates too, like, oh, they're real about this, and they
And they have
appreciate my time
integrity.
and they
Yeah.
have integrity. And then what was I going to say? Now I forgot what the other one was, but there's a lot of examples that you can put together and get creative in how you'd like to visualize, somebody's capabilities. There really is. Yeah, you don't need to, have them share proprietary info.
Yeah, right. And again, you shouldn't be asking for it. Like, if you wouldn't want your work shared.
Right.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Exactly.
So what are the most common pitfalls you see in interview loops, and how should hiring managers redesign to assess skills?
That one's fun. We love interviewing, and we love giving interviewing advice. It's really fun. But I think that the biggest pitfall is that somebody always just wants to hire somebody that's like exactly like them.
Interesting.
Or that what needs to happen, that's a pitfall, right? Is that if one person is the main decision maker within a hiring process, that person is like very blinded to maybe some of the other necessities of the role because they're not in the role themselves. And they want to just hire somebody that either they get along with really well or they identify with in some capacity because they're just like, it's easy for them, right? And that's why there's people that are like professional. That's what they do for a living is hire people, right? Because they like your internal talent acquisition, like those types of individuals can kind of see through that and adjust and make sure that they're the right fit for the role, not just somebody that you get along with really well, right? But so I think the way to get around that is to have like a posse, right? So you have these people that you work with internally, big or small company, right? Doesn't matter, that are just like, this is the leader for culture, and this is the leader for analysis, and this one's for client development, right? Client readiness, like those types of things. And then you just really trust them to give you their honest opinion on like where they rank on all these different things. So just like having a group of people to help you analyze the individual will get you way farther. And that way they've created relationships with most of the people in your organization as well. So like, don't just keep it high level, like meeting the senior leadership, like they've got to meet everyone. Right.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And we've definitely started doing that over the years, right? Just to make sure that they're, because a couple of bad hires and you realize how important it is to have, other people involved. Okay. And so we talked a little bit about this at the beginning, but job seekers, people who are looking for work, what should they do to raise their profile? So we've talked a little bit about networking and LinkedIn, but for maybe some folks that are not quite as outgoing, that don't really have as much of a LinkedIn presence, what are some things that people can do?
I don't know. I really liked your idea about this, like pro bono work and then producing that work on LinkedIn or a portfolio and those types of things. That's really, really great. I think that's a fabulous idea, and everyone should be doing that. It would really help out a lot of people. But the brand thing is something that everybody needs to work on, like creating their own personal brand and ownership of that brand. So, and then like adjusting your LinkedIn to reflect that. I'm not saying you have to post like a selfie video of yourself like once a week or whatever, but just like having an identity, making sure that you have all the right keywords to be assessed on your LinkedIn and all those types of things that can set yourself apart. And that makes you a little bit more interesting, right? Than just like this a person on paper, but like this individual is a specialist here and this is what they want to be doing. It makes me drawn to them a little bit more to be like, oh, okay, that person is driven, accessible, interested. Like I really want to talk to them. Where can I help them? Where can I fit them in? Right? How do we help each other? Like it just opens up this kind of like networking relationship with people than kind of just being closed off, not having a picture, just applying and doing those types of things. I mean, networking is golden. Like it's really in this environment, like the number one way you're going to end up finding a new position. Like you have to do it, and it sucks for a lot of people, to like have like these weird forced relationships with like these forced conversations that maybe you're not interested in having all the time. But then you get in it and you're like, this wasn't bad. I missed that person. It was a nice conversation, like, and it all ends up being okay.
Yeah. And we're lucky in our industry to have so many different ways that you can engage and get involved, whether it's like a work stream with the Insights Association or, volunteering with QRCA or talking to people at Quirks and Green Book. I mean, there are so many different ways that you can get involved. And, and I think it's in many ways it mimics our industry itself, right? I mean, market research and consumer insights have so many different kinds of jobs and roles, whether it's operations to statistician to, qualitative researcher to data visualization. Like there's so many different things that you can do. And there's equal number of different ways that you can get involved with our industry, which, works twofold, right? So you could help start working on your portfolio that way. Two, you can gain or demonstrate topical proficiency or interest. And three, you're networking, you're raising your profile, you're doing all of that, of the different kind of stuff. So I would really encourage people to take advantage of the many people in our industry that are here to help.
So many. Yeah, there's endless opportunities to connect with people.
And no lack of events.
No lack of events. As we know now, at the end of the year, like we need to plan out all of next year. You're just like, oh man, I'm already tired looking at it, but it's such an exciting time to get involved with people, and so many people are open to it. Everybody truly wants to help each other. It's a very inspiring, scenario and industry to be a part of.
I couldn't agree more. I think that, I think often people feel like the industry that they're in is the center of the universe. But I am 100% convinced ours actually is,
Yes, I love that. But also, I thought of something to say earlier and then I forgot, but it came back. The idea that I was just talking to somebody this morning and she's like, okay, I'm trying to get creative. Like she's having a strategic conversation with me about herself, right? And like, that's another thing. When you're talking to people, you need to have that too. Get their ideas, their perceptions of you, right? She's like, okay, like I know I'm really great at this, but I can do this. What do you think about these types of positions? Like she's like trying to figure out where she can fit in the industry, what industry, like, oh, can I transition to more of like a customer success position? And I'm like, you could, but this is the trajectory for that. Is that interesting to you? Right. Or like, I can do this. And then it's like, she's just like consistently working it and figuring it out, instead of just like kind of cookie cutter exactly what she's been doing for the last like 10 years. Right. And just getting a little bit more creative with it and talking to different people in different industries to get their take on it too. Like, can she be doing something different?
Yeah.
She's interviewing at all these different types of companies and all these different types of roles, right? Because she's spending her time trying to figure out what else she could be doing, like outside of that one thing.
Sure. Right? And I think that's so smart. And it mimics what is so interesting about our industry, that you can try on different hats. And, if I think about my own career, I've done almost everything there is to do in market research. And what that gave me is enough of a skill set that I could start my own company. So maybe I'm not, an absolute expert in a bunch of different things, but I know enough about a ton that it allows you to have a breadth of experience that you I don't know, that you can go your own way if you want to, which I think is also. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to ask you, what is your advice then for people that are thinking about starting their own company currently?
So I think the biggest thing to do is to decide from the get-go whether you want to be a sole proprietor, which I think is a very good way of filling in some gaps. If like you are looking for, like maybe you do function better and want a role in a company, but you're finding yourself out of work or whatever, freelance. Be a sole proprietor, whether it's project management, researcher, data analyst, whatever it is, there's always going to be opportunities for you to pick up work. And in some cases, that actually does turn into how people end up having, their own company or a sole proprietorship. I think that it keeps your resume from getting stale. It keeps you from learning. It keeps you learning. It keeps you engaged. It keeps you networking. And I think that it's a very, very, very easy thing for people in our industry to understand. Lots of people freelance. You've got the Qualitative Research Consultants of America, which is, devoted specifically to independent qualitative researchers. I know some other people who started, perhaps they were statisticians, and they formed collectives with people who had complementary skill sets where they didn't actually become a company, but they became a group of people that could help each other win work, right, as an agency. I think that's another great way of going about it. Or if you actually do want to start your own thing, you need to have a real clear vision about the time and resources it's going to take to get you from that one-man shop, two-man shop, three-man shop to whatever it is that you want to be doing, right? So it's like, and I think sometimes it is really challenging to figure out how you're going to bankroll all of that on the front side of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so, but then I think you also need to be ready. Like, having your own company is a totally different kind of hustle. And I remember when we were, I guess like 3 or 4 years in, 2 years in when COVID hit. So like, if you think end of 2019, beginning of 2020, we launched in the beginning of 2017. And all of a sudden you were just like, oh my God, like, what are we going to do? And and it's a terrifying thing to think about, having to lay people off or having to, and those kinds of emotional roller coasters never leave you when you have your own company, right? So I think that you need to steel yourself for having to be the decision maker that is like letting people go, or having to make hard decisions in a time of economic uncertainty, or constantly needing to either not necessarily reinvent your company, but reinvent the processes within to match how things are moving. So like, you really, if it is something that you want to do, you can't just decide once what you want to be and how you want to do it. You have to constantly be changing and evolving and adapting. And some days are amazing when you have a lot of wins, and some days are not so great. So I think that you have to be ready for that. I mean, there was definitely times when, after I started the company, where I was like, man, I had a pretty sweet job before this. I was like, so
did I have to be so passionate about
right. Yeah, and I think that I mean, I would always encourage people to test it out, right? And again, you can test it out if you're between roles quite easily. And just like anything else, you'll figure out what works for you. But I would say, for me, it was the right move and remained the right move, but I can definitely see how for some people it wouldn't be, because it's harder. It is harder. But I would encourage people to do it. You know what I mean? It's fun, and you get a lot more autonomy, and so okay. One of the things this wasn't on the list.
Around on you, yeah.
Go ahead. I know. I'm like, so this wasn't on the list, but I wrote this question down when we were talking about something else, and I think that this is a good one to end on. So, as a recruiter, what makes your job harder and what makes it easier? And that could be both from the clients that you're interacting with and the job seekers. So like, what do they do that makes your life easier? What do they do that makes your life harder?
That's funny. Empathy on both ends makes everything easier, right? Just in general. But I think that communication also makes everything easier. So the idea that we are working with clients in a strategic capacity to help them fill roles, and that they are open and communicative, and we have the same goal in mind. That always will make things easier. And then on the candidate side, same idea. They're transparent. There's no surprises. They trust us. That always makes things easier too. So that we don't have something happen where, oh, they got another offer. It's like, oh, I asked you if you were interviewing anywhere else, and you said no. Like, that's that's discouraging. It's those types of things. So
it also burns a bridge.
It does.
right?
It really does. Yeah, we have some like do not contacts in our database for sure. For lack of communication, honesty, just if we don't feel as if we feel comfortable representing them to one of our clients, right? Like they represent us at that point. So yeah, I mean
How would you, so how would you address if you did have someone that was seeking a job who was interviewing or perhaps working with other headhunters? Because I would imagine that some people feel nervous that you aren't going to put them forth, like you wouldn't put them forward if you knew they were working with other people. But I would imagine that that isn't true, so because your job is to get the best person for the job and
for the client.
For the client and to get the person the best, most attractive offer for them. And so it would be reasonable that they were interviewing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, that's fine. And I feel like a lot of us know each other at this point too, the other recruiters and things like that. But yeah, no, that's perfectly acceptable. I would feel bizarre if they weren't. Like I give candidates a list of other recruiters and recruiting agencies if they're actively looking for work, because like we all work with different clients most of the time, right? It's on a rare occasion where we're like, crossbreeding. But I feel no, honesty, communication. We're all human, right? Like you're trying to find a job. There's no bad blood. It's not weird, right?
Yeah.
I get it. If you don't like the job I sent you through for it, just tell me, right? If you didn't feel like it was a good culture fit, please just tell me. If like you're interviewing somewhere else and it's getting really close, I'm excited for you. Congratulations.
Right.
Just tell me. So I think just like honesty, humanity, empathy, like all of those things, like we really need to bring that back to the recruiting agency world. Like the idea, I feel like there's a stigma around recruiters most of the time that's like we're like out for blood and like we want to get the most money out of every deal and we don't care about people. Like that's like old school recruiting, and I feel like we're in this new age of like making it a little bit more human and empathetic, and I'm hopeful that like my clients see us that way most of the time. I would think.
Yeah, that's good. And hope the candidates too. So Lindsey, this has been phenomenal. I appreciate it so much. Sorry for the technical snafu. I feel like we recovered well.
Like Jay's gonna see me just like
you had to start humming your own hold music. And I turned my phone off too. So I was like, I couldn't just immediately be like, hey, let me just dial in this way. I was like, okay, power up. I'm like, now I get to go figure out what I've done to my computer that made it die.
Sorry. Yeah, that's not fun.
No, well, I do believe I didn't plug it in. I do think that is. I was in Austin last week, and I was like,
how'd it go?
Like you pack. It was fine. It was great. So like you pack your cords, and then I was like, as it totally shut down and didn't give me any warning that it was going to do that, I was like, "Where's the fucking cord?"
That's me too. I feel you. No judgment.
No. And it didn't even tell me. I was like, it just went black, and I'm like,
Yep, I do.
Yeah, but I do think it was user error, if I'm going to be honest.
Honesty, empathy. See, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's right. This was so great. And it took me a minute to realize because Jay was like, you should reach out to Lindsey. And I was like, yeah, okay. And then I was like, it took me a minute to realize that we had just met at Inside Career Network. And I was like, oh yeah, this is great. I was like, we just had a fun time.
It was fun. Well, it was fun.
Yeah.
We're all tired.
Okay. Yeah. The last day of anything is always like
a little exhausting. Yeah.
Well, hopefully I'll see you floating around over next year. Let me know where you're going to be.
I will. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. This is awesome. I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, it was great. I appreciate it too. But let's talk soon. Okay.
Okay. Bye, Kerry.